morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here at Edinburgh City Hall. I am Roxanne Lerma, the Director of Communications and Media for this awesome city. Thank you so much for joining us for our third annual Joint Regional Hurricane Preparedness Press Conference. I am honored and privileged to be your MC today as we come together to address the safety of our communities in the face of potential hurricanes. This press conference is just a really good way to get some important information out, to share best practices, and also to foster a regional approach to storms, which is what we want to do in the Rio Grande Valley. Today's conference is going to feature several speakers who will cover various aspects of hurricane preparedness, including emergency supplies, all the way to post-storm recovery. And their insights are going to make sure that we are all well equipped to face any challenges that may lie ahead for South Texas. Before we start today, I do want to take a second to recognize some of our Edinburgh City Council that's joining us this morning. Of course, our Mayor, Ramiro Garza Jr., Mayor Pro Tem Dan Diaz, and our City Manager, Ms. Mayra Ayala. She's hiding in the back of the room. We also have some other special guests that are joining us this morning. Hidalgo County Judge Richard Cortez. Missions Assistant City Manager David Flores. Kenneth Ennis, Public Safety Communications Director from the City of FAR. Our Edinburgh Fire Chief Omar Garza. Wesco Police Chief Dr. Joel Rivera. Chief Rick Saldaña, Director of Emergency Management for Hidalgo County. Love her, Precinct 4 Commissioner, Ms. Ellie Torres and her staff. Our Edinburgh Police Chief, Jaime Ayala. And Transit Director for the City of McAllen, Mario Delgado. Let us begin today with the official welcome from Edinburgh Mayor Ramiro Garza Jr.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. All of you that are here, County Judge Cortez and Commissioner Torres, thank you so much for always collaborating with us, and all the cities that are here. Thank you so much for coming. This is the third year that we do this, as Roxanne mentioned. We just thought it was important, as y'all know, when we have a storm coming, it just doesn't affect one city. It affects all of us. And it's all about coordination. But today we're here to talk about preparation. I want to extend my thanks, like I mentioned, to all of you. Your collaboration and partnership ensures that we're all committed, right, to the same cause, take care of our residents. Sometimes our residents don't know. They may live inside our city limits. They may live outside our city limits or in a neighboring city. At this time, it's just about helping our community at large. While we've been fortunate in recent years that we have not had a major storm that has affected us in a way that we have to come together and save lives that we've seen throughout the state and around the country, we must remember that it only takes one storm, to cause some massive destruction. It doesn't even have to be a hurricane. It could be just a weather storm that comes, as we've had recently, that just stays longer than was anticipated. Hurricanes and these storms are unpredictable, but their impact can be devastating. It's not a question of if, but when the next big storm will hit. So today, what we're doing here today to advise our community at large about preparing is so essential for us to be here. To our residents, I urge you to take proactive steps in preparing for this next hurricane season starting tomorrow. Ensure that you have an emergency plan, that you're stocked up on essential supplies, and you stay informed about weather updates. And please be charging every piece of, either cell phone or radio, anything. You got to make sure that you have them up to date. And the other thing on medical supplies that I was just advised with David, thank you for mentioning that. Normally your medications, you get them for 30 days, get them for 90 days. That's so important. Hurricane season is a number of months, but for having it for 30 days, I think it's better if you get it for 90 days. So thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. That is something very important. Blood pressure medication, other medication, that's so important. Your preparedness and the first line of defense against potential havoc of a major storm, including a hurricane, is key. I also want to assure you that as we see all the cities that are here, we're here to work together. We're working diligently, hand in hand, as a region, together with our county, and it's what is expected of us, and we're here to reiterate our commitment towards that effort. This collaboration is a testament to our unified dedication to safeguarding our communities. I know together we're ready to face the challenges that nature may throw our way. By doing our part individually and then collectively, we can mitigate the impact of hurricanes or any other major storms by protecting our community. Thank you for being here, and look forward to continue our collaboration with all of you, not just in this preparing for the hurricane, but in everything that we do jointly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Now, please welcome Hidalgo County Judge Richard Cortez, who's going to give us a brief overview of the 2024 hurricane season, which unfortunately sounds like it's going to be a pretty active one. And I hear you're also going to give us a few cooking tips. Welcome the judge.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking, of course, Mayor Garson, the City Commission, for hosting this very important session here today. You know, Hidalgo County and all of our cities have taken seriously the need really to prepare for this hurricane season. But this year really marks even a more heightened concern about this season because the community needs to be really prepared. Forecasters are predicting an extremely active hurricane season. I'm going to repeat that. Forecasters are predicting an extremely active hurricane season. One of the primary forecasters has been the Colorado State University, which have been predicting hurricane activity since April of 1995. And this year they predict the highest number of hurricanes since they began forecasting nearly three decades ago. They are now forecasting 23 named storms in the Atlantic, 11 of which they predict will become hurricanes, and 5 are projected to reach major hurricane strength with winds up to 111 miles per hour or greater. And just last week, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration provided the most aggressive hurricane outlook in that agency's history. So folks, they're predicting some serious threats. They said that it's 85% chance that the Atlantic will have an above normal hurricane season. This includes a prediction of 17 to 25 named storms, 17 to 25 named storms, 8 to 13 hurricanes, and 4 to 7 major hurricanes. To use an old cliche, we better hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Let us also not forget that it only takes one, and it's not a matter of if, it's really of when the storm will come, it's a matter of when. They are giving us this advice for us. They remind us that the category of a hurricane isn't as dangerous as the water that it brings and the storms that it brings. They note that 90% of all fatalities involving hurricanes come from water, not wind. Most of these fatalities are freshwater fatalities, meaning rainfall brought the water, and the majority of freshwater fatalities involve automobiles being swept away. Finally, they note that the inland areas like Hidalgo County can be impacted just as badly or worse than coastal activity, and the danger does not lessen just because we're closer inland. In fact, since 2013, there have been 455 direct fatalities because of hurricanes, meaning that the storm caused a death, and another 418 died indirectly, often during the cleanup and often because of carbon monoxide poisoning coming from generators of electrocutions from downed power lines and chainsaws and things of that nature. So many reasons cause this death, so we need to be very, very, very careful in anything that we do during this period of time. Every family should have a disaster plan in case of the hurricane that includes everyone knowing escape routes, pre-planned places to meet up, and taking important records to mind. You should create a disaster supply kit. You will hear about that a little more often as to what to include with them. You should also be prepared for prolonged periods of no power and no water in your homes. Last year, we gave a demonstration for cooking without power and even created a cooking book with ingredients that would require no refrigeration or electricity in order for you to make them. We're proud of the state of Texas through the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. They used our idea and created their own emergency preparedness cookbook that had 3 days worth of recipes. These cookbooks are available anywhere there is an AgriLife office, and we have one here in Edinburgh. Hidalgo County will soon be releasing the second edition cookbook, and I'm proud to say that our staff tested each and every one of the recipes. They're pretty good. Porque todos estamos gorditos, so we know how to cook. But more importantly, we have initiated the process of training our essential Hidalgo County personnel to be able to cook without power, because they will stay in the county to be able to address any major emergency during this period of time. So training our employees and our loved ones for supporting them to manage, to feed their families is very important for us. So Hidalgo County, let's get ready. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present to you what we believe is going to be a very active season. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Judge. You make me want to get ready. Moving to the importance of an emergency supply kit, as the judge mentioned, please welcome McAllen's Transit Director, Mr. Mario Delgado.
Good morning, and thank you, Roxanne. I'm Mario Delgado. I'm the Transit Director for the City of McAllen and Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator. And I'll be talking to you about some essentials that we should have in our homes in preparedness for a hurricane. Obviously, some of the essential supplies be water. You need to have enough water, about a gallon per person per day. For evacuations, we have 3-day supply, and for home use, aim to have about a 2-week supply. Food. Stock up on non-perishable, easy to prepare food items. Again, look at that cookbook and make sure that you have some of those essential items. I don't know about you guys, but I have some picky eaters at home. Make sure that you account for that as well. Have a flashlight, a reliable flashlight. Make sure you've got extra batteries. If you can get your hands on a battery-powered hand crank radio, preferably on a NOAA weather radio with a tone alert, so that you can be informed of weather updates. In terms of medicine, it's essential to prepare potential disruptions. So regarding medications, you could limit the availability of medications. So make sure that you have enough medications, anything that you take on a regular basis, have enough of a supply. We urge all residents to talk to their healthcare providers in the event that there isn't a storm that will prevent you to go to any regular visits, to make sure that you account for that as well. And take proactive measures to ensure that we have all those doses that we need. Caring for pets and family members, our pets are an important part of our family, and so it's you need to make sure that you have enough food for your pets and any necessary medications that they may need as well. The kit includes food, water, medications, a leash, and a carrier. If you need to evacuate, most cases you'll need to have a carrier to get into any type of transportation that is provided. And make sure that your dogs, your pets have identification, so that in the event that they do get lost, that you're able to find a way to recover them. Some of the things in regards to our community. I mean, one of the things that we're known for here in Hidalgo County is our community spirit. And so during the time of a storm, this spirit of cooperation is essential, and it's important for us to take into consideration. Make sure that you're checking in with relatives, neighbors, anybody that might need some help, anybody that might not be able to care for themselves. Make sure that we're checking in with them, make sure that they've got all the necessary items, and have an established communication plan. I know a lot of times, we don't have access to cell phones whenever we do have a storm. Make sure that you prepare for that. Make sure that have a communication if something like that happens. Know where you're going to meet to make sure that you can get in contact with family, friends, and relatives that might need your help as well. Any other items that you think of, baby food, supplies, diapers, extra diapers, stuff like that. We know, especially during COVID, that when something happens, people rush to the stores to get all the supplies. So it might be better to even prepare ahead of time, ahead of any potential storm. So let's just make sure that we do that as well. And just remember, I mean, get with your local officials for any type of additional information you may want to have. You know, obviously transportation, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more, but make sure that you know in the event that you do not have access to a vehicle, know where to meet, who to talk to about any potential transportation needs as well. And again, we're, you know, City of McAllen, County of Hidalgo, and all of our partners are here to help and assist anybody that may need. So contact us with anything that you need as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. So I think we've heard it. It is never too soon to start those recovery efforts. For more on that, please welcome Missions Assistant City Manager, David Flores.
All right, thank you, Roxanne. Appreciate that. So yes, you've heard that we're going to have an active season, and you've heard that we need to be prepared. So one of the messages I want to send out to our citizens is that your city and the county emergency managers, we stand ready and we are prepared for anything. But recovery begins now with what you can do with the homeowners, what you can do now. And what I would suggest that we do now is every homeowner, if you own a building, whatever it is, check your insurance policies. Look at your insurance policies, make sure that they're up to date. But also look at flood insurance. If you don't have flood insurance, look into it. If you don't live in a flood zone, I would still look into getting flood insurance. And just remember that if you do initiate a policy for an existing home or building, there is a 30-day waiting period. However, if you're going to close on a home or building, you can have that flood insurance initiated of the date of signing. The next thing you can do for everybody is take pictures of your home and your property. Take pictures now, get pictures of all of your inside your home, the outside your home, your buildings, vehicles, fences, everything that you have, because if and when a disaster does strike, before and after pictures are very, very important. That tells a lot, especially when we get to the point of having to report damages. So after a disaster, let's say we do get a disaster, after disaster, so those photos will help you, but the TDM has a tool, it's called the ISTAT, the Individual State of Texas Assessment Tool. It's an online tool that every resident can use after a storm has come to record damages. What that helps us to help you is that record all those dollars of damages, that helps us to meet the thresholds that we can for either SBA or federal assistance. And all that gets rolled up into the state, and that helps us. So take the photos, use the tool if we do have a disaster, because that'll help us to help you. And just remember, recovery is to get things back to normal as soon as possible. So by preparing now, if we do have a storm, you can help us prepare to get back to normal as soon as possible. That's all I got, Roxanne. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Help us help you. Communication is certainly key during critical weather events. To help us with that, please welcome Yuri Gonzalez, FAR's PIO, to introduce their next speaker.
Thank you, Roxanne. Yes, as she just mentioned, information, accurate information, matter of fact, is critical during hurricane preparedness and during an actual event, a hurricane or a storm or a catastrophe happening in our region. So before we welcome Kenneth Ennis, who's our public safety communications director, he's going to discuss on how internally working with our entities, we gather that information that then is shifted over to your Office of City Communications, and then we push out. Just a few reminders for those watching, and just simple reminders that can be critical during this time. Follow and monitor all your your local news stations, your meteorologists. Most of them have apps. Download the app so you can be getting these notifications. I think that's critical to know what's happening in your community, in your city, and in your county. The other thing is many cities here in the region have their own 311 app. I know at the city of FAR we have our own 311 app, and residents can actually register for Code Red. Code Red will be giving, updates throughout, a hurricane or a thunderstorm or a severe emergency. These messages are going out directly to your cell phone or any other number that you registered. Again, Code Red may not be for every resident, but just check through your city mobile apps. The other thing that's very important, just social media. Social media usually, and not only during a hurricane, but throughout hurricane season, because there's a lot of reminders on sandbag distributions, emergencies, critical information that you can be getting not only from your Facebook with your county, but also with your city. So make sure you follow the social media pages. My mom mentioned something really funny this morning. She said, well, before social media, we couldn't really monitor weather or emergencies, so we used the radios. Well, those radios are still being sold. You can get them really cheap at HEB. They're battery operated, and these are your backups because you might lose electricity, you might lose your Wi-Fi, your internet signal, so now you have to be ready. You have to have the backup to the backup to the backup. So look into those now, just like Mr. Mario mentioned, those are great. And you can monitor these stations. Facebook Live. So in case of an emergency, major emergency, just know that your county and your mayor will be working closely to bring any updated information. Whether there's an emergency press conference, just be alert because those are very important. And just make sure you also stay informed with your local public safety communications department. Follow their page as well. This is where Mr. Kenneth Ennis will join us when he's going to discuss the regional channels, Code Red, and other platforms that we use internally to then push this information out to our public.
Thank you, Yudi. Kenneth Ennis, Public Safety Communications Director for the City of FAR. Hurricane preparedness is definitely a key foundation to having a great outcome during the hurricane season, right? And part of that starts with communication. Communications in public safety is always referred to as the lifeline, right? The foundation to success. We can't do that without the public's understanding of how communications works. 911 is key, right? Whenever there's an emergency, we dial 911. During hurricanes, guys, it gets tough, right? One of the things that we want to make sure that the community knows is that 911 and public safety is there for loss of life, loss of property, right? So one of the things that overwhelms our systems is when the power goes out, right? Everyone wants to dial 911 and say, hey, when's my power coming back on? So we want to make sure that you guys are prepared. Have your utility provider numbers on hand and ready to go. Make sure that you make those calls to those utility providers first, and it'll help with a successful outcome. As far as public safety, we prepare constantly. We're always training police, fire, EMS. They could tell you this day in, day out. It's always a training exercise for them when there is no emergency. And part of that is our radio communication system. So we have a regional system that allows every entity within the region to communicate with each other with no boundaries, with no barriers. And that allows us to provide mutual aid, automatic aid to help us mitigate some of these emergency situations. In addition to that, she mentioned Code Red, Yudi mentioned Code Red. That's referred to as a reverse 911. I know not every agency within the region uses Code Red, but please reach out to your first responding agencies, ask them what reverse 911 system they use and how can you register for that reverse 911 system so that you can get those critical up-to-date messages from the cities. In addition to that, we also utilize a system here in the region called IPAWS, which is the Integrated Public Alert Warning System. Public Safety Communications Department in FAR currently operates the IPAWS system and operates it for Hidalgo County, Willacy counties. So any of those messages will be pushed out just like you see with Amber Alerts. So it'll come out either on your television, radio, cell phones. So just make sure that you keep an eye out for those messages. Those are very, very important messages. In addition to that, I do want to make sure that we understand that during an emergency, everyone's going to want to start calling each other. That puts a lot of strain on the cell phone networks. So expect there to be some delays with your networks or not being able to get through. A good example of that is New Year's Eve. Whenever you guys are trying to text or call your family members and you can't get through, that's because there's so much traffic within the system. So please keep that in mind. Make sure that you have all your emergency contacts already listed and ready to go in your little pamphlets that you take with you. And please, guys, prepare. Thank you.
Kenneth and Yuri, thank you. Super valuable information. Do you want to take a second before we move on to our next speaker to recognize McAllen Mayor Javier Villalobos, who's with us this morning? Thank you, Mayor. So, as you heard before, once a storm blows through, it is not over for our citizens. Then the post-storm recovery begins. Next up to the podium to speak about that, Weslaco Police Chief, Dr. Joel Rivera.
Good morning. Thank you to the City of Edinburgh and Mayor Garza for hosting this event. That's much appreciated for us first responders to be able to share information with regards to what we feel our community needs to hear. And so to talk about recovery, the post-storm recovery, it's essentially going to be a summation of some of the things that you've heard here today. Recovery, post-storm recovery is a direct function of a community's resilience. Resilience is defined as a system's ability to return back to normal or near normal post a catastrophic event. So how quickly can a community bounce back, right? And so then the question is asked, well, how do we become more resilient? And so the message is essentially the phases of disaster recovery and response are mitigate, plan, respond, and recovery. Those are the phases that we go through. And so those phases aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. They're not switches. We go from one to the other. In some circumstances, they're building blocks upon one another. In some circumstances, they run parallel. As an example, when we talk about post-recovery, storm recovery, recovery starts sometimes during the response phase, right? And so Mr. Flores talked about when we respond to an event, it's important to have a recovery portfolio, right? That the recovery portfolio has the information, insurance policies, birth certificates, critical information that you may need in an emergency evacuation, whatever that may be, right? Part of that portfolio, that recovery portfolio that you have, is information with regards to assets that you may have, pictures pre-storm, so that way in the post-storm, that makes it easier upon you during critical incidents or during post-storm recoveries. It's the regret time. I wish I had done this. It would have been easier on me. And so you have to take the opportunity during the preparation phase to document all those things, so that way on the post-storm recovery, it's a lot easier. As stated just now, stay tuned to local media and official media websites. One of the things that we've learned as emergency managers is the dissemination of rumors, the dissemination of information wastes a lot of our community's energy and time. We hear instances, hey, there's water distribution over here, and then there's no water distribution over there, right? And so it's important to rely on media websites, social media platforms, or official platforms of the cities to be able to get good information, because misinformation is something that we often combat during the recovery phase, post-storm recovery phases of what we do. Again, preparation is the key to becoming resilient. And so this press conference here is too short to cover essentially everything you need to do as a community to become prepared. So I encourage you guys to visit the FEMA.gov website. That'll walk you through everything. It will give you item by item to prepare before and how the recovery processes work. It's an excellent website, and I ask that you guys visit that website and as part of your recovery plan, as part of your creating your recovery portfolio. And then, like I said, stay tuned to those social media platforms and those news outlets to get information during the recovery phases. That's when water distribution sites, that's when, food pantries, that's when all that information is going to be disseminated during the recovery phase, because as stipulated earlier, water systems go down, sanitation systems go down, and the cities are tasked with the recovery processes, and we communicate that through various media platforms. With that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you for mentioning about misinformation, because I think that is something that we all struggle with. So key today, if there's any takeaway, tune into reliable, valid sources. Safety is also key during severe weather. To bring us up to speed on that, please welcome our last speaker, Fire Chief Omar Garza.
Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate that. The one thing we get away from today is being prepared, being prepared, being prepared, being prepared. This year, according to our weather experts, should be one of the worst years on record. So we need to be prepared. And I want to thank the mayor for having this press conference and letting the public know that they need to start getting ready and start getting prepared. Get those emergency kits ready, because this will be the year. And don't be, well, I'll do it next year. That's going to happen. We need to be prepared. And as first responders, public safety officers, we may not be able to get to your call right away. You might be on a list in the event of emergency. We might have 30 or 40 calls pending. So you need to be prepared. You need to have your family prepared for an event. One thing also is generators. If you're going to have a generator in your house, please be safe about it. In 2020 Hurricane Hannah, we had a family that passed away due to improper use of a generator. So if you're going to use the generator, please follow the manufacturer recommendations. Place the generator at least 20 feet away from your home. Make sure you don't back plug it into your home, where people tended to rewire it and plug it back into the house. Never do that. Always try to keep it in a dry area. And always, one of the things about generators, they produce carbon monoxide, which is a poisonous, odorless gas. So make sure we have that's not a hurricane, okay? That may sound like a hurricane, but it isn't. But make sure make sure that the generator is far away from home. Make sure you have a proper extension cord that's required for that generator. And right now is the time to check that generator. You don't want to pull that generator out of the storage, the day before the storm and crank it on, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And usually when that happens, they don't run efficiently, so they're producing a lot more carbon monoxide. So right now is the time to get prepared, check those generators, make sure they're operating safely. And right now, if you're looking to buy one, probably be a good idea to start getting one right now, because when the storm comes, it's pretty hard to get a generator. So be prepared, have your generator, make sure it's working properly, and make sure you have it in a safe place. Avoid using it during when it's raining. Make sure it's covered, and make sure, like I said, make sure it's away from your home. Also, during time of emergencies, we have heavy storms, heavy rainstorms, even like what's happening in Houston right now, in Dallas. It's not even a hurricane, it's just a rainstorm. We tend to have a lot of flooding. If you don't have to be on the road, please stay home, right? Stay off the roads. Let the emergency crews do what they got to do. Stay at your house. If you come into a low area where there's high water, please turn around. 12 inches of water can cause your car to float away, and all the damage that's causing your car also. So if you can, just stay at home, and if you come to an area, please turn around and don't drown, right? Also, what happens when people are driving on the road, that water seems to push back into the homes, causing more damage into the homes in those flooded areas. So if you don't have to be on the road, please stay off the road. So once again, please be prepared. Have your toolkit, have your food supplies, have those generators tested, have a place to go in case you need to be evacuated, have some extra cash. But please be prepared. That makes our jobs much easier when the city and the citizens are prepared, and we know that you guys can kind of fend for yourselves until we're able to get out there. Because there might be, due to the storm, we may not be able to get out there as soon as we can, right? So, I mean, we got to kind of wait a little bit, and then we'll be able to deploy. So we really want to make sure, like Mayor Garza, and I know he's really key about having these press conferences and making sure that the citizens of Edinburgh are aware that they need to be prepared. So if you take anything away from today, just be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So as you can see, it takes all of us to be prepared. By emphasizing the importance of personal readiness, we can all minimize the impact of hurricanes and thereby protect our families, our neighbors, our communities. I want to take some time to express very sincere thanks to all of the chiefs, our speakers, our mayors, our county judge, for being with us this morning and taking time to share their expertise. Together, we're stronger here in the Rio Grande Valley. Also want to thank my counterparts in our sister cities for helping me to organize this event and get our speakers together. That concludes our press conference this morning for members of the media. If you do want to get some one-on-ones, you can do that immediately after this, after we take a few group photos. We thank you so much for joining us this morning. We hope you took away a lot of great information and have a wonderful rest of the day.